Congressman Boyle joins us this morning. He is the ranking member of the Budget Committee and member of the Ways and Means Committee. Congressman, it's great seeing you. I thank you for your time. How is this new tariff world sticking the middle class with a bill?
Well, very simply, it is the single largest tax increase in American history. It's a tax that everyone will pay in this country based on the goods that they buy. However, it's also a tax that is highly regressive, that actually the poorest amongst us will end up paying a higher percentage of their income, now giving it away because of these tariffs that Donald Trump is placing on goods that Americans buy that are made overseas. It also just doesn't make really any rational sense whatsoever. They come up with this calculation and they throw in a couple Greek letters to attempt to dress it up to make it think it's well thought out. It was simply, as your past guest showed, just the level of total imports that we buy per country divided by 2. That doesn't make any sense. Why in the world would we be punishing ourselves and the American people based on our own consumer habits?
And so, you know, we just heard from the vice president this morning saying that this is a realignment of the world economic order. And if there is a real realignment of a world economic order, it is precisely to fight back against the status quo that has been in place, which has caused in many places, Pennsylvania is a good place. I mean, there's been a lot of pain from trade imbalances in recent decades in your state. What do you think these tariffs or the policies behind these tariffs mean for your state and others?
Yeah, I want to be clear here because I'm someone who's not against all tariffs. There are times when tariffs are appropriate, for example, to go after China for steel dumping. However, when those tariffs are appropriate, there's some sort of underlying economic rationale or national security rationale, and the tariffs are targeted on a specific country and a specific industry or product. That's not what we're seeing here. This is a blanket tariff on every single country on earth, with the exception of Russia. If you notice that, by the way, they're the one country that escaped without any tariff being placed on goods that we buy from there. And then the percentages themselves, again, have nothing to do with what that country is imposing on us. For example, another country, Israel. Israel has a 0% tariff on the United States. Now, because of President Trump's decision late yesterday afternoon, we will be imposing a 17% tariff on Israel, even though there is no reciprocal tariff, as I mentioned, placed on us. So I do believe that we need to have a well thought out domestic manufacturing strategy. This isn't it.
I do, and I have to look into that, but I do think that Israel went to a 0 tariff with the U.S. 48 hours before yesterday's announcement. Until then, they did have a tariff. It wasn't the highest by any means in the world. But Congressman, I'm just wondering, like, when is it appropriate to stop chipping away at the status quo that hasn't, for some, worked efficiently and effectively in the United States for decades?
Yeah,
I was just speaking with a gentleman that has a factory, you know, his name is Capone Factory. They do stairs and railings, steel stairs and railings. And he was saying, look, forever we have been dumped on, and there has been very little effective, efficient movement to protect us. When is it, Congressman, appropriate to stop chipping away at the status quo and simply create a new one?
Yeah, you know, Jose, I certainly hope nothing that I'm saying is could be misinterpreted as somehow me defending the status quo, because that's certainly not the case. And in fact, I have spoken out about previous policies that I think were harmful over the past decades to American workers. But, you know, we did see in the last administration, in the Biden administration, actually a return and a regrowth of manufacturing jobs in the United States, including in my state of Pennsylvania. You saw in the CHIPS and Science Act, as well as the Inflation Reduction Act, and other programs and policies passed by a Democratic Congress, a reshoring of a number of industries in this country. So that work actually began several years ago under the previous administration. That work is actually now jeopardized by the actions that Donald Trump just took.